Okay, alright.
How would I introduce myself to a stranger? Well, I go by Jordan, aka DXTR SPITS, and I probably introduce them to the fact that I work in STEM by day, and then by night have a lot of creative projects and outlets, including work in music, my retail brand, and most recently, mental health awareness. The campaign, this is How Men Cry, and it's, How Men Cry. It's a page, it's a campaign that I'm launching centered around getting men to talk about vulnerability and mental health and just the importance of bringing those conversations to the surface. It's actually a book. There's a video series to come as well as a podcast series, because the first main objective is to get 1,000 men to talk about vulnerability just candidly. So I'm doing so from shooting this podcast and filming, and also allowing guys to submit stories on the forum that we have at howmencry.com, where they can talk about a time that they cried or expressed vulnerability. So Only Today is observing nature, living intentionally, is essentially what the brand stands for, ONLI. And that is essentially looking to encourage individuals to connect more with nature, that being with their natural self, as well as within the natural world, and trying to essentially, I would say, live more thoughtfully. I think there's a lot of distraction and a lot of material that gets us overwhelmed with how things are with social media and everything else. So just kind of finding a way to unplug and then tap into who we are. Originally, though, it started as a backpack company, which was using prints from local artists in Chicago and a little beyond, to help to kind of tell their stories and their narrative. But the switch is a bit more in line with where my heart is kind of lying, where I see my own personal journey going, and also what I would want to encourage folks to do. Several men have actually reached out about that, if they can submit anonymously. It's fine. I encourage you to, continue to communicate with who you can about what's going on, but this is about the showing of vulnerability and looking for men, quite frankly, to be brave enough to do it publicly and without shame, because for any other thing, we would show off a victory that you had. You'll show off and talk about, yeah, man, I did this great thing, and I'll show off whatever on the internet. But showing vulnerability all of a sudden then becomes some type of standoffish issue. And that's what I'm looking to change and adapt, is just the stigma around that. When you take away the distractions and the man-made things that have been built and created and the narratives that we've told ourselves, the world looks a lot more simple in a way. And then it gets harder and harder to continue to participate the same way as individuals that have not made that connection with, I would say, nature, and just living without thinking about these types of distractions as being so real and so tangible. So just spending a lot of time outside has really made me think of things like, how do I want to create my life in a way that I'm really happy with, in a way that I feel peace around, without the rest of the narratives and the man-made distractions that are currently swarming us. But one thing that I have definitely noticed is that for men in particular, in the social dynamics, especially here in the United States, there's so much conversation that is pushing us towards not showing feelings or not showing emotion or not talking about what's going on with us, in a means of keeping us tough, if you will. And I don't think it plays out well for us in the long run. One of them for me, for sure, would be boxing. I found that it's a really great outlet to just let out some of the steam, you know, from that pot, and then also like allowing yourself to kind of tap into this like core, I would say almost animal drive of like exertion. I think sometimes for me, I'm behind a desk or behind a laptop or something like that, and that's so unnatural, really. And I use the analogy of a pot on a stove boiling. And the idea is that, you know, if you have this pot and you have the cover of the pot sealed tight, you know, I work in STEM, I'm an engineer, you keep bubbling up all that material in there and there's no way for it to go, it will explode. And what I'm talking about when I say how men cry is not necessarily just tears falling. I'm talking about the means in which violent outbursts might be somebody crying out. Verbal abuse might be somebody crying out. Self-harm might be somebody crying out. Substance use. So all of these different things are different forms of not getting down to what's hurting us and trying to talk and then work through it. And that's hard work to do. I'm still in the current process of doing that on a day-to-day basis. We're still animals and we still have these feelings that are gonna come to us regardless. It doesn't matter of what your gender is, you are going to have feelings and things impact and affect you in your life. And one of the most foolish things we've ever taught men is that, oh no, you don't have that. So whenever I meet a guy that says, well, I don't have no feelings, I don't got no feelings, I don't got this and that, what it says to me is, oh, you're actually so hurt and don't have a means to process what's going on to you that you buried it down or you've put the cover on that pot so tightly that you won't let it go. And that's more sad than it is, you know, something to, I think right now we make a little too much light about that, but that's something really sad because that's somebody suffering in silence. My name is DXTR SPITS. I am an entrepreneur, engineer, and artist, and you are watching Profile.
Okay, all right.